Hello and welcome to this webinar on cholesterol, why good fat doesn't cause heart attacks. Now I'd like to just give you a warning that this is quite a technical presentation and is quite complicated. So apologies if it feels a little slow. I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page because it is quite technical. So why do we think eating fat causes heart attacks? It's definitely the mantra of the Western world that if you eat saturated fat then you will have a heart attack. So actually most of that thinking comes from a study that was conducted in 1958, which is the 7 countries study. And that is basically what our modern nutritional advice about reducing saturated fat is based on. Now there's a couple of problems with the study. So the selection of the countries, so we've got 7 countries there, but there are actually 22 countries that provided data for the study, and only 7 were selected for the final cut. And one of the major flaws of this study was that they only analysed 4% of the participants' nutritional intake. So they measured what 4% of those people ate and then factored that up to the other 96%. So you can see that a small number of individuals could massively skew the study. So let's have a look and see what that study found and why we've got the advice we have now. So on the left hand side here you've got the 7 countries that were involved in the study, and so you can see, looking at this, why you might think that if you eat more fat the heart attack rate in a country will increase. So if we use the US as an example there, you've got percentage of calories from fat along the bottom, and that's nearly 40%. And then you look on the left hand side and 7 deaths per 1,000 are caused by CHD, chronic heart disease. And then as you come down you've got Canada, about 35%, same with Australia, around about 6 deaths, so reducing the fat and it reduces your risk. Then you've got England and Wales at sort of 30%, down to 4 deaths per 1,000. Italy, 20% of calories from fat, deaths are now in the region of 1.5, and then Japan with less than 10% of their fat, having less than 1 death in 1,000 attributed to CHD. So you can see how you would come to that conclusion looking at those figures. But the graph on the right shows the figures from all 22 countries. So if we look at that again, you can see as an example there, number 14, which is Mexico, has about a 22-23% of calories from fat, and has a lower death rate from CHD than Japan. We look at number 19, which is Sweden, so that's nearly up to that 40% of the USA, and their deaths per 1,000 are 3, whereas the USA is 7. And then we look at example number 11, which is Israel. Their fat intake is at about 20%, but the deaths per 1,000 is 4. So you can see that actually when you look at all those 22 countries, there's a lot more going on here than percentage calories from fat causing CHD. And that's why when we look at this study we wonder why all of the national guidelines for most of the Western world are based upon this study. So if we have a look at what cholesterol actually is, so it's actually a waxy fat-like substance, and it's really important to the human body. It makes the outer coating of every body cell. We use it to make up the bile acids that digest food. It allows the body to make vitamin D. It's needed for the production of hormones such as testosterone and estrogen, and it is absolutely essential for brain function. And I think what happens is we say, cholesterol, and we think bad things, we think heart disease, but actually cholesterol is absolutely fundamental to life. But because it's a fat-like substance, it can't dissolve in the blood, and therefore needs transporters to get around the body, and this is where we kind of get good and bad cholesterol from. So I'd like to tell you the cholesterol story, and these are the characters of our story. So we have the LDL cholesterol, which transports cholesterol around the body. We have triglycerides, and we'll come on to those later. And then we have the HDL cholesterol, which are like road sweepers. So the fundamental basis of what we're discussing here is that excess carbohydrates cause high triglycerides and low HDL. So those triglycerides are our bad cholesterol, and the HDL is our good cholesterol. So what happens is our LDLs, our great big quarry lorries, are able to carry cholesterol around our body quite efficiently. But when you also have triglycerides in your blood, they start attacking those LDL cholesterols, and they make them smaller and more of them. So you can see in our example here on the right hand side, that quarry lorry has been attacked by triglycerides and is turning into sort of HGVs. And as our carb intake increases, we have more triglycerides, and that further attacks our LDLs and makes them into like a pickup truck. Now the problem is, the more of these LDLs you have on the road, the more likely it is that there will be accidents, and the more likely that they will therefore drop their cholesterol in the blood rather than taking it where it's needed. So if we look at that just one more time, we've got these big quarry lorries able to move cholesterol very efficiently around the body. As our triglyceride levels increase, which happens when we eat carbohydrates, they make those LDL, those big quarry lorries, less efficient and therefore smaller, and they turn into these sort of HGVs, and there's 3 of them for every one. And then as the triglycerides increase again, we end up with pickup trucks, much smaller, more dense LDLs that drop their cholesterol in our bloodstream much more easily and will have many more crashes and damage the blood vessels. Now our HDL is the collector, so that goes round and it picks up all the damaged LDLs, it picks up some additional, it picks up any of that cholesterol that is spilt in the blood vessels. But the problem we have in Western society is that excess carbohydrates increase our triglycerides and they reduce our HDL, those collectors. So we're causing more and more damage to our LDLs. They're less able to carry that cholesterol to where it's needed, and it's dropped into the blood vessels, and also those blood vessels are damaged by those smaller LDL particles. And not only that, our HDL levels are also reduced, so the road sweepers are not going around clearing up that spilled cholesterol, and that results in what we would call a plaque, so narrowing of the arteries. But it's not because of the amount of fat that we're eating, it's actually because of the carbohydrates that we're eating, which increases our triglyceride levels, which attacks our LDL, makes it smaller, makes it drop more cholesterol, means there's more collisions into the side of the blood vessel, and less HDL to go around clearing it up. So what we aim to do by eating good fat, low carb, is reduce our triglycerides, increase our HDL, and therefore give us healthier LDL. So I'd like to show you my personal blood results. So my pre-low carb good fat levels, my HDL was 0.9, my triglycerides were 1.7, and my LDL was 2.2. Now I've been low carb good fat for a year. My HDL has increased to 1.1, My triglycerides have dropped significantly to 0.9. Now my LDL has gone up a little bit to 3.1, but I think that those LDL particles are now those bigger quarry trucks rather than those small, dense particles of LDL that will cause heart disease. So let's have a look at that one more time. So I was at 0.9 HDL, 1.7 triglycerides, 2.2 LDL, and now my HDL has increased, my triglycerides have dropped significantly, and as I say, I believe now I have more of these quarry type LDL particles rather than the smaller ones that would cause heart disease. Now this is a really complex topic, so please do feel free to revisit the webinar, watch it again, and if it's something that you're interested in or indeed worried about, then I would suggest that you head across to YouTube and search for The Great Cholesterol Myth. There is a lot of information available about why we've been made to worry so much about our cholesterol in the Western world, and when we're eating a low carb, good fat diet, we really don't need to worry about cholesterol.